What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. Today we have update number 8 from our Pittsburgh Pirates MLB The Show 20 franchise here. We're in 2021 and we've actually just completed the draft for 2021, so we're going to be going through our draft class and giving you guys an update with how everything's going through this part of the season, and just give you guys another update before we hit deeper into the season or anything like that. So the first thing, like I said, that I want to go over is our actual draft class. Now, I took a different approach this time whenever I was scouting players and whatnot. I actually went in and micromanaged on a day-to-day basis all the scouting and what positions we were going after and all those things. And so it's kind of a mixed bag of getting, good and bad out of this draft class compared to whenever we just have it auto-simulate. So I think in the future I might just have it auto-simulate all the scouting and everything, because I liked my draft class from last year quite a bit, and I feel like my draft class from this year is good but not quite as good, and so I'll go through that here now. So with our first overall pick, you guys can see that I had scouted catcher quite a bit, and there wasn't really any particular reason for that. I don't feel, as I've said in my other videos, that we're weak at any specific position now that we've made a lot of trades. We do have some nice catcher prospects and stuff like that, but I really wanted to see if I could identify a top-end catching prospect, and I really wasn't able to identify anybody that was that great, so I kind of wasted a lot of time and a lot of scouting on catchers that ended up not being that great. We did end up getting Grayson here, who's from Missouri, a 21-year-old with B potential, but he's only a 48 overall. So the chances of him being all that great, they're not that bad, but being that he's a 48 overall, as our first round pick, I would have liked to have gotten somebody better than that with our first overall pick. But a lot of the guys that we had scouted that we knew were sure lock top-end players, top-end prospects, were actually off the board by the time we picked, because we picked like 15th or 17th or something like that in this draft because of finishing in the playoffs last season. So, I don't know exactly how that factors in, but we weren't able to get one of the top end prospects that I wanted to, but Grayson does have some potential there. With our second pick, we brought in Luis Armas, who was a 62 overall B potential center fielder, actually out of Mexico. So I like this guy quite a bit. He's got a lot of really good attributes. He's got good speed, good stealing. He's also got a decent arm for somebody that's so young, and the other things that I like quite a bit is his bat. I mean, he's got 77 contact versus left. He's got good vision, good plate discipline, which means he could be a good all-around player someday for us if it comes to that, if we keep up with the franchise that long. Our third round pick is one of my best picks. This was Wakefield, a potential player, 90 potential. Shortstop, 61 overall from Canada. Really good speed, really good base running aggressiveness and stealing. Not great in any other particular category. He's got a decent arm, but what I like to see is the potentials out of these first three guys. So they're basically all A potential. I mean, Grayson and Armas are just on the verge of getting that 90 potential to be an A. So they're technically Bs for right now, but what I will say is that my first three picks were really close to or above A potential, which is really good to have with your top three picks. Now, like I said, I'm not too happy with the overall of Grayson, but I think we'll be able to get him up in time. Then with our fourth round pick, we brought in Cristobal Andino, a left fielder out of Missouri. And what you guys will see is I targeted a lot of position players just to try and fill out my organization, because I feel like we have a lot of good pitching prospects, and I didn't really need to target any in this draft. We then brought in the fifth round, Dave Warner, who is a center fielder out of Ohio, C potential, 50 overall, good speed though. Then we brought in a closing pitching prospect, Barton Castle, who actually has B potential, who was just kind of sitting there late in the sixth round, and I was like, what, this could be a potentially good player for us. He's got B potential. He's a 66 overall. He's from Germany, which is interesting, and he's only 18 years old, so that's a guy that would be interesting to watch as we move forward. And then we drafted with our final pick Germaine Ramirez, who's actually a relief pitcher out of Kentucky. We drafted him because he had high overall, or we had some scouting on him, so we knew that his overall was high, but his potential was pretty low. So we'll see if we can make something out of him. That's our draft class for this year. Like I said, a mixed bag, nice potentials out of most of these guys, but I feel like I kind of liked it more whenever it auto-scouted people, because I got, I guess technically speaking, when I drafted the last time, I was drafting like 7th overall, so naturally I would have gotten better players. So I don't know. I might continue to scout manually. I might auto scout. It's just kind of up in the air whether I want to do that or not. I feel like I might have benefited. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Do you think this draft class is better than the last draft class? And do you think that has anything to do with the fact that I auto-scouted last year versus manually scouting this year? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section, and I'll read those and take your feedback on those things if you've been keeping up with the franchise. Now, on top of that, we can update for essentially the month of May and how things went here. As you guys can see, there's a lot of green. Our team is performing really, really well, and you'll see that when we get to the roster. I'm not going to go through every single game, but you guys can see that we did finish out a win in this series against Cincinnati. We won the series against the Dodgers. We won the series against Washington, won a series against Milwaukee, won a series against the Mets, won a 4-game series against Philadelphia. We actually came up with a series loss here against the San Francisco Giants, which was kind of weird for us considering that their record is so low compared to ours. We then played Philly, where we took a 3-game sweep, and we went to play Milwaukee, where we actually got a 3-game sweep. And then prior to the draft here, which was the 2nd of June, we had a 2-game sweep against Tampa Bay. So as you guys can see, a lot of green, probably too much green to be honest for what this team really is, but the team is playing really well, and I think that the addition of Noah Syndergaard was huge for us. We've now moved him up to 3rd in the rotation because he has really established a footing, and we're doing really well with him. He's 8-2 on the season with a 2.62 ERA, so I think he's really starting to reestablish himself as a top-end pitcher. It's going to be a matter of time to see whether he can keep up that pace or not, and see if he can really become what we want him to be. But, you know, like I said, not a lot of pressure on him based on the way that we traded for him. We didn't want there to be a lot of pressure on him because of the fact that we have other good players in front of him. And, you know, in addition to that, I want to just let him go out there, throw his pitches, and not have to worry about too much. He doesn't have to be the star in this rotation, and he isn't right now. And he doesn't have to be, because Jameson Taillon is pitching lights out with a 10-1 record with a 1.87 ERA. Mitch Keller is 10-0 with a 2.09 ERA. Brandon Waddell is actually 6-4 with a 3.47 ERA, which is certainly not something I'm going to complain about. And then Domingo Robles has improved significantly in recent weeks. He's actually 5-2 with a 3.09 ERA. So my entire pitching staff is performing really well, probably above expectations, to be honest with you guys, and I think they're carrying the team for the most part. You know, my relief staff is pretty much where they have been. You know, nobody is slouching here. Nobody has a horrible ERA. I would like Scott Foster to get his ERA down a little bit, but considering he's only pitched 9 innings, you know, you can't really expect too much out of a guy that's not pitching that much. Peter Fairbanks has gotten a lot of work, as you guys can see, and he's maintaining that 1.25 ERA, so I'm really, really liking what I see out of him. Hunter Harvey came up recently. He's only gotten an inning worth of work, but he maintained 3 strikeouts through that inning, which was really nice to see. And Eliezer Hernandez continues to reduce his ERA, getting a ton of innings, actually with a 6.23 ERA, but doing really well for us and maintaining that spot with exactly the amount of flexibility that I like. So there's no chance of pretty much any change happening with the pitching staff right now. The only spot that's kind of open for discussion is Domingo Robles' spot, and that is pretty much just entirely dependent on whether he continues to play well or not. If he doesn't play well, we might look to call up some prospects, because we do have some players playing well. If I actually go to my roster and look at my starting pitchers, there are some guys that are knocking on the door. Braxton Ashcraft is up to a 69. He has an ERA, he's pitching 3.86, so we'd like to see him continue to improve. Otis Matthews has not played very well. He's kind of just stagnated, relatively around where he's at. Sam Dordoff's is a 66. Brandon Malone's up to a 66. So realistically speaking, when I say there's somebody knocking on the door, I mean Braxton Ashcraft. It's going to be a matter of him getting his ERA down and continuing to win games. I want him in the starting rotation eventually. This is one of my 5 players that I want to be in the starting rotation, along with some of these other guys, but I'm really kind of dedicated to Braxton Ashcraft and getting him up to the major league level. So I'm not going to call him up too soon, but the chance is there that if he continues to perform, he could find some work up here at the major league level for us. So we'll see what happens with that. That's something that is definitely worth talking about. And then let's go ahead and update you guys on the lineup and how everybody is batting. Kevin Newman is batting .313. I don't think there's any surprise there. He continues to man that leadoff spot with a lot of authority, and there's no chance really of him moving from that spot. Colin Moran back strong from his injury, still maintaining his high average, hitting a bunch of home runs. Can't complain at all about him. Bryan Reynolds is absolutely just dominating at this point. He's up to a 92 overall. He's batting .343. He's actually playing above his potential, so I'm hoping he gets a potential increase sometime soon. Actually, he just did. Now that I look at this, he got that green arrow up and he got a potential, so that's really nice to see. You guys are seeing that live at the same time that I'm seeing that, so that's really good. He's batting .343, guys, with 16 home runs. Not going to complain about that at all. And on a similar level, Josh Bell batting .333 with 17 home runs. I'm really happy about that. Hopefully he continues to progress. As you guys can see, this top four of our lineup here is just absolutely tearing it up. And I think the core is there for us to really have a kind of a dynasty within the next few seasons. We'll see if we can make that happen. Obviously, budget constraints are going to be the biggest issue for us, so we're going to have to see if we can keep people under contract and keep people around that can help maintain a high level of play for us. O'Neal Cruz is not batting as well as I would like him to. He's actually only batting .226, but he does have 11 home runs, so the power is coming out. He's just not getting his batting average up there. We're going to look to continue to improve upon that. JJ Bleday is having himself a season, batting .309, doing really well defensively, and he has 14 home runs. So pretty much the core of the lineup right now, in addition to those guys, there's Ke'Bryan Hayes batting .302. The core of the lineup as we move forward into this rebuild as it is, or this franchise, are JJ Bleday, Ke'Bryan Hayes, Bell, Reynolds, and Newman, and possibly Moran. Moran is a big-time trade piece. I think we could get a lot back for him, but right now I just play too well with him whenever I actually use the players and I actually use him, that I really can't afford to get rid of him. I think that I just am too good with him to get rid of him. Now I know that I could get a good return back, and we do have a third baseman that is right there and ready to take his spot. I think the problem just becomes that I don't have anybody to take over that DH spot right now that would be better. I had talked about potentially signing Howie Kendrick out of free agency, but he would be more of a bench bat. I don't think any of these guys on the bench are ready to take over that DH spot from my perspective, so that's where we're at with that. Sean Murphy's doing really well, actually kind of picking his game up quite a bit, averaging .266 with 4 home runs, and then Brandon Marsh is continuing to do really well with a .278 average and 6 home runs. And then when we go to the bench here, Jorge Mateo doing exactly what I want him to do as the platoon player. I mean, he is our lead platoon player right now. He can play a bunch of different positions. He's got really good speed, decent defense, and actually has a decent bat. He's batting .274, he's got a couple home runs. We're considering moving Cole Tucker down. I don't know exactly how to work out what I want to do with him. I have gotten his batting average up from where it was, but whenever I don't play with him, he continues to bat poorly. So I just don't know what to do with him at this point. If you guys have any particular suggestions on what you guys would like to see me do with him, let me know down in the comments section. I'm considering all options. He could be a potential trade. I want to keep him around in the long term. I think he's young enough that it really doesn't make sense necessarily to trade him away yet. I mean, he's only 23 years old. Maybe it's worthwhile to send him back down to the minors. Maybe it's worthwhile to just keep using him up here and let him work through his struggles. I don't really know. We'll see what happens with that. I'm not too sold on trading away Cole Tucker. I'd rather keep him around personally. I like him a lot, so we'll see what happens with that. Jason Martin doing really well off the bench, batting .295, a very good defensive player, so I'm kind of surprised at how good he's been batting, towards the end of last season and through the beginning of this season, which is really nice to see. A lot of good production out of some of our kind of lower end guys. And then Dalton Varsho batting .215 off the bench, doing a decent job as the second catcher. I'd like to continue to see him progress, and he is getting some stat upgrades. As you guys can see, he has progressed quite a bit, which is really nice to see. I mean, he's getting a lot of upgrades for this early in the season, which is good to see. So that's where we are in terms of the lineup. The real only question mark is Cole Tucker right now, and there's no definitive answer on what I should do with that. In terms of the rest of the team, I want to talk a little bit about a couple of different prospects that are performing well. If we go to right field, Swagerty Brito is a guy that, I've considered trading at certain points, and I want to see, how he continues to develop. I'm actually watching him closely. There's nothing special going on with him right now. It's just the fact that he's got really good speed and the fact that he's 27 years old. So he's kind of walking a fine line of whether we trade him away or whether we kind of use him somehow. I don't really know. I haven't figured it out quite yet, but that's another thing I would take your guys' feedback on. What do you guys think we should do with Swagerty Brito? The other one is Travis Swagerty, is batting .252, has a couple steals, has 5 home runs. He's performing admirably down there in AAA. He's not quite MLB ready yet at this point, but what I will say is he's dang close, guys, and I want him up. I want him to be kind of the future of this outfield, and he's going to be competing with Brandon Marsh, so this creates a dynamic where, maybe we could call up Swagerty and send down Cole Tucker, or maybe trade away some guys like Jason Martin or something like that. I don't know. It's kind of up in the air at this point. It's good problems to have because everybody's playing so well and the team's playing so well that we just have so many players that could potentially be vying for spots, which is really nice. Definitely not going to complain about that. And then who else did I want to consider bringing up? I was looking at a couple of different guys that are playing really well. Joe Rizzo is actually playing really well down in AAA, so hopefully he continues that run and can get better and can join our major league team within the next couple seasons. Leover Peguero was one that I wanted to talk about. He's actually playing really poorly down here in AAA, so I'm considering moving him back down to AA just to see what happens with that. I'm also considering playing some more AA and AAA games just to try and get these guys' performances up, because what I'll show you guys is their records are pretty bad. Mason Martin also not performing quite as well as I would like him to at this point. His power numbers aren't quite there for what his batting average is down here in the AAA, so it might be worthwhile to consider another stint in AA for him. So definitely some things to consider with some of those prospects. And what I want to show you guys is the record for our minor league team. So if we go to where are we at? If we go to AAA, we are 15-38 in AAA, which is kind of problematic. So I might start playing some AAA games just to try and get the Indians record up and try and improve those guys' performance, because right now we can't afford to have performances like this where we have guys that are 0-7. And I did play this game and we lost 3-2. So the team really isn't as good as you would think. I think that's just because we have so many young guys with high potential that we don't really have anybody high overall that can kind of carry the team down there, and that's kind of a disadvantage for us. And then in AA, we have a 27-25 record. So I'm not as concerned about our AA team as I am the AAA team. I'd really like to improve upon that AAA record of 15-38, because that's really going to hamper some of the development of some of those guys and prevent them from getting up to the major league, in the timeline that I would like them to. So those are the major updates. What I do want to show you guys is that Howie Kendrick is still out here in free agency. He continues to go down. He's now down to a 77, so I don't know at what point I pull the trigger on that. I haven't gotten any feedback on the video saying, oh yeah, you should trade for this guy or whatever, so I'm not going to do it unless people want me to do it, because I don't know how realistic it really is. We didn't bring in any free agents last year in the offseason, so bringing in one free agent over a 2-year span really isn't that big of a deal, but we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, we do most of our work through trades. We have quite a few people that are actually getting all-star votes right now because of how well the team is performing. Obviously, all of our pitchers are getting all-star votes. Josh Bell, Kevin Newman, Brian Reynolds, lots of different guys getting all-star votes here. And actually, 3 of our pitchers are leading in all-star votes right now, Tyon, Keller, and Syndergaard. And there was one other thing that I wanted to update you guys on, and that is Tyler Glasnow. Tyler Glasnow was having a really good start to the season, and he was leading in one of the categories. I don't know if it's strikeouts. Yeah, he's got 104 strikeouts. So as you guys can see, that J.J. Bleday trade might have helped the Marlins more than it helped us. Excuse me. If I go over to the Marlins, their pitching staff and their team has a real good potential to... they're having a real good potential to continue to do really well. Tyler Glasnow's up to an 88 with a potential. So I don't know. I honestly, I think the Marlins benefited the most out of this trade, honestly, because, if you look at their field, they really didn't lose a whole lot with J.J. Bleday. I mean, they still have guys hanging around like Corey Dickerson, and they're not developing these prospects as quickly as you might want them to be, but they still have a lot of potential guys here hanging around in the wings, and so I think that getting that ace pitcher really helped them out quite a bit. So I just wanted to reiterate that fact. I don't think there's a whole lot more to go over at this point in the season because we're not close enough to All-Star time to really give a definite update on some of that stuff. We don't really need to talk about any of the awards or anything. What we can talk about is the league leaders in stats. Keone Kela has had a ton of saves. No surprise there. We had a ton of saves with him last year. Josh Bell has a ton of RBIs, which is really nice to see. Keller and Tyon are the two top pitchers in the NL in terms of ERA, which is really good. In terms of pitching wins, we're getting a lot of wins with our pitchers, as you guys can see, because our record is ridiculous. Jamison Tyon has 10, Keller has 10, and Syndergaard has 8, so we're getting a really good performance out of all of those guys. And that's pretty much where we stand in terms of these league-leading stats, those top-end stats. Like I said, we're getting a really good performance out of a lot of these guys. It's going to be interesting to see if we can continue to carry it forward. We might bump up the difficulty just because of the fact that we're playing so well, but we'll see what happens as we move forward. I might sim this month, and we might lose all the games. I might lose 75% of the games. The Pirates are like that. They're streaky. And I haven't determined whether this team is going to be like that or not. It kind of was like that at the end of last season where we lost 10 straight before the playoffs and we still managed to edge ourselves, edge a spot, corner spot out in the playoffs, however you want to say it. So this team has the potential to be pretty streaky, and I don't want to jump the gun on anything. I don't want to pull the trigger and make my life harder if they're going to go ahead and lose a bunch of games anyway. So we'll see what happens leading up to the All-Star game. The next update I have for you guys will probably be sometime around here in the All-Star break, maybe July. We might even get it at the end of July whenever the trade deadline's over, because I don't know if I plan on doing too many more trades. Like I said, we pulled the trigger on the one trade that I've really been wanting to do, which was bringing in Noah Syndergaard. Now that that's taken care of, I don't see a whole lot more in our future in terms of needing to make trades or anything. I think the only thing that I would be considering doing is probably trading away some how do I sort? It's trading away some of the older prospects that we have. Some of the guys that are lower down here in the minors that have, higher ages, like wait, I'm not on all. Trading away some guys like, Lee Hurd, stuff like that. Guys that we've brought in that have good potential but are getting up there in age maybe. We'll see what happens with these. I'm not sold on trading away any of these guys, but they are guys that we might be able to get a return back just to bolster the low end of our farm system, because guy like Fritz Barrett's not going to see playing time for us anytime soon. We might as well trade him away for somebody younger that might get playing time a couple years from now. So that's kind of where I stand on these things. Let me know what you guys want to see update-wise next. We do have some gameplay and stuff over on the Twitch channel, so make sure you guys go follow that. I haven't put a whole lot of gameplay up from this Pirates franchise, just because whenever I get in the mood to play this, it's usually like, I have a little bit of time. I don't really want to stream it or anything like that. I need to do a better job of actually getting the gameplay up from this channel, but it seems like a lot of you guys are actually just enjoying seeing the progression of the team, seeing the moves and the updates. So if you guys do enjoy that stuff, make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel here if you're new, comment down below with what you guys would like to see out of me next, what you guys would like to see video-wise. I'll see you guys in the next one. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and stay safe out there.